Eagle City is almost a ghost town except for the post office. It handles the mail for only a few families and takes in about $1,000 each year. But it costs $5,000 to operate. Oklahoma has some 635 post offices. Most of them are in small rural communities, and almost all of them are losing thousands of dollars a year. In Albert, Oklahoma, the Postal Service is considering closing the post office. It's one of the smallest offices in the state in every respect. The people of Albert are upset. They're scared about the possibility of losing their post office.
Well, it makes me mad just to think, but I guess much money they waste and then can't keep a little post office to what the other people need.
Well, I operated a store here for better than 27 years, and this is the only place that I've got to come meet people anymore.
It seems like, you know, it's a part of us.
But one alternative seems to be just right to solve the problem in many rural towns. It's called the community post office. Under this plan, the federal government closes the post office it operates, but then the government tries to find a private businessman, like the owner of the local service station, who's willing to open a post office as part of his regular business. The government then pays the businessman for his efforts, usually $2,000 or $3,000 a year. And that's quite a savings from the $20,000 to $30,000 a year it now costs to operate a rural post office.
They could work on their grocery store business or on their gasoline station business or whatever type of other endeavors they wanted to do. As opposed to the post office, there was large gaps of time between customers that was wasted.
Yes, a lot of time was wasted and is still being wasted at hundreds of rural post offices still being run by the government. But under the community post office system, that situation would change, and money, lots of money, would be saved.
In the case of the military, we will not pay military on Friday, 13 October, and we will release those checks just as soon as possible for the military. In the case of civilians, since half of the monies that they had accrued affect fiscal year 1978, we are prepared to disperse to them on Friday, and the checks will be released tomorrow, but approximately half of the pay that they would normally get, half of their net pay.
Left. Right. Two. Go left. Go left. Go left. Right. 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 Left.
Predominantly, we envision that a large number of them will not have money to buy food, and that's what we're gearing up to try to make sure that each soldier here at Fort Sill has a place to stay and something to eat. And that's something we've been meeting on all morning to try to finalize plans to make sure that that in fact happens.
She always stabbed me in the back.
I wasn't even working on the energized circuit or anything. That front's still on. I don't know.
The bank will honor personal checks even though they are of necessity will create an overdraft, and those checks which are outstanding and may come to the bank in the next few days that create an overdraft will be handled without a charge. It is a service which we have to be ready and are certainly willing to provide and prepare it back to case enough. There have been, I suppose there have been circumstances where they've had
days or 15 days.
Right.
Depends on the individual student.
Right.
One student may not be able to miss 5 days and keep up.
Is he called at that time. So therefore, we're asking that the truancy be put back in the statute, and either let us do something about getting these kids back in school, or let us as a group do something about getting them out of school.
I do not feel that truancy is a criminal problem or a delinquency problem. I feel it's a school problem and a community problem and should be dealt with by the school and by the community.
To work with that 1 or 2 or 3 students.
Thank you.
Now, it don't take much of a imagination to see what a speck of carbon, dirt, moisture will close the supply of gas and or whatever is flowing momentarily. And when that supply of gas is terminated just for seconds, then the flame goes out. But whatever's in the pipeline continues to flow.
What effect does that?
I drive a long ways to work. I put a lot of miles on the road to get to where I go, just so I can live where I am. And I don't gripe about it, I don't complain about it. But when I get home, I like to have it warm in there. And all the rest of my boys, well, they're that way too. No use in coming down here and fighting and jumping up and down, because you guys are holding the biggest stick. We got little sticks. I think that
Well, the importance is that it was an internal, in-house document prepared by General Electric, which is self-critical of their own boiling water reactor design. We don't know the details of the Reed report, and therefore we can't assess its importance to these proceedings until we have had a chance to look at it. If it turns out that it doesn't add anything to the proceedings, then it will have been a lot of hoorah about nothing. On the other hand, it could go into a lot greater detail and describe defects which our experts and other experts around the country didn't know about. We expect it'll be a very detailed self-critical examination and very relevant to these proceedings and the safety issues that are involved.
And it's with great pleasure that I present a copy of this proclamation of Mike Monroney Day in the state of Oklahoma to Mrs. Mary Ellen Monroney, and it's with the deep affection of the people of the entire state of Oklahoma. Thank you very much.
His greatest legislative triumph, however, came in 1958. Early in that year, Mike began work on legislation to create a Federal Aviation Agency. In August 23, 1958, the Federal Aviation Act of 1958 became law. The act, as you may know, established the Federal Aviation Agency, providing for a unified control of air traffic and airspace for both civil and military aviation.
Headed by those elected states. I think that is the prize of the 5th district. You stand up, Tom. Are we going to win in November?
the state will argue that the bill exceeds the power of Congress and violates the state's right to control its own internal commerce. We must challenge the federal government to protect the Oklahoma consumer. If this bill is put fully into effect, my Energy Advisory Council estimates that it could cost the Oklahoma consumer as much as $5 billion over a very short period of time. It would cost $5 billion to rebuild the present electrical generating plants in the state of Oklahoma to switch them from using natural gas to using other forms of fuel.
And the guy without a tux, Senator Henry Bellman. Paul Waxall from Nevada. To introduce the comedy team, I hope that's right. Senator Flint.
And there are just a lot of new things coming on there. And so I think that the people who have cancer have good reason to be quite optimistic. I think that we've tried everything that we felt could be helpful, including lots and lots of prayers. And I think the prayers are the thing that's really does it. But we're doing a lot more besides the recent chemotherapy. And I'm very pleased that for some time now there's been a remission in both lungs in my case.
The bill is grossly unfair from a regional point of view. Our Energy Advisory Council again has done a study and estimates that nationwide the bill will increase utility bills by only 3% on the average. But here in the southwestern part of the United States and in Oklahoma, it will increase utility bills by 43%. Now that is grossly unfair to the Oklahoma consumer.
Well, we've directed that our agents spend a minimum of one night each week observing retail liquor stores for the presence of minors and intoxicated people on the premises. Of course, those two violations are felonies, very serious offenses. And we want to make every effort we can to preclude the sale of alcoholic beverages to minors or intoxicated people.
Well, I was somewhat surprised. I thought the compensation board would consider the cost of living increase, which affects all of us, and make some provision for taking care at least of that cost of living increase. That's all I expected of them, but I did feel like the members of the legislature were entitled to that.
I think we better hold our spending, legislative salary-wise, at this level. The inflationary spiral has to end someplace. In other words, somebody has to take the bull by the horns and say, we're not going any further. There are too many things keyed to a cost of living index today. My office is keyed to one, my friends are keyed to one, manufacturing is keyed to one, labor is keyed to one, so that we all give a cost of living increase. Well, of course, this is reflected in our fees or our charges, and so these same people start paying more, and 2 years later, we're right back to where we were.
We now have many situations where a family has to drive a long distance to a Class A post office to purchase their stamps. And these individuals will no longer have to do that. Of course, with the cost of driving a long distance, it didn't make the food stamps worthwhile. The free stamps was not enough. Now they'll get all free stamps and won't have the expense of transportation.
It's a little, all your cream wines like that are on the sweet side. So. Yeah. Okay.
According to the ABC board, you can't sell liquor to an intoxicated person. How do you tell if a person is intoxicated?
Well, this is a very difficult question to answer. You know, a lot of times people will walk in here and look just completely sober and attempt to buy a bottle and then just literally collapse on their way out. It's almost impossible to tell. So what we usually do, if there's any doubt in our mind, we just refuse to sell them because we have too much at stake to lose in selling one bottle. And I think you'll find that the entire industry feels that way. Not just this store, but 99 9/10% of the retailers in the state feel the same way.
What about selling to minors in this book that you can sign?
These books are great, but they don't absolve us from selling a minor, just to be frank about it. If a minor can con a retailer into signing this book and selling and later on is caught, we're still liable legally. So the book is a good thing. We have not used it because we feel that if there's any doubt in our mind at all, we just don't sell them, period.
Well, of course, we're in the process of preparing complaints now, certified complaints against the clubs that we've been successful in purchasing liquor by the drink.
So after 13 years of inactivity with the private clubs ordinance, it now appears some clubs may be brought before the board for possible license revocation. But at the same time, the City Council may be deciding to change that ordinance, lessening the severity of the penalties.
I think that we will gain guidance from the ultimate outcome of the passage of both, if the passage of the new ordinance takes place and or the action that is taken against the two clubs by the Alcoholic License Review Board, the ultimate outcome of these complaints. I think that that will give us much guidance regarding the policy that we will follow in the future regarding the enforcement of the private club ordinances.
We're not necessarily going to be bound by the decisions of
Would say that I was within 30 days of turning over our investigation to the Attorney General's office. I have not held this investigation for political reasons or otherwise. I'm not involved in that sort of thing, and I'm not sure that would how long I kept this investigation would have any effect on anyone. I simply want to ensure that the investigation is all-inclusive. It has the material necessary to present a well-written document to the Attorney General's office for his determination. I think that this particular situation was blown completely out of perspective. And I would want to make it very clear that I have not or will not in the future cover up anything if there are possible violations. That's not my method of operation, nor has it ever been.
This strong-arm campaign tactic is nothing new for the old guard. It is the way they financed their campaigns for years. Then after the election, they repay their lobbyists with your dollars, the same way George repaid Bob Hicks. He rewarded Hicks with a cut-rate lease on the clubs of 2 Oklahoma State lodges. Hicks rented the clubs with George Nye's approval for $175 a month, including utility bills. The state was lucky to even break even on that rent and certainly never made any money.
Would you not have thought it would be proper if there was a establishment of priorities, that counseling was the #1 priority for that position, and a counselor was on the must transfer list? Would you not have felt it was proper for that person to have an opportunity to be an applicant and be interviewed for that position?
No, a counselor could not be hired for this position. A counselor's salary is higher than this position, and a counselor would not accept this job.
Well, you're assuming what a counselor would or would not do, I take it.
I feel fairly certain of it.
Right.
When he first called me, I told him that I did not know any of the details of the situation. And he asked me to look into them and call him back, which I did.
And you never made the statement that
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
How you doing, Governor?
Fine, sir.
Good.
Governor, how are you?
Glad to see you. Hi, all fine here again. Let's go across and we'll go to the other bank. Don't want to miss one.
Good to see you too.
Out doing some campaigning?
Good. We're with it.
Good.
Yeah, we've been hearing all the news about you. We're real proud of you. Yeah, we're real proud of you.
Thank you.
And we live right in your little hometown over there in Stratford.
Well, good. That's right.
Just good to see you all in town.
Good to see you.
And me 4 years ago.
That's right. Can't believe it's been that long ago.
We made all of them one time, all these places.
Yeah, we sure
well, good to see you.
Nice seeing you.
You bet.
I wonder how far it is.
Said it was 30 minutes. Takes your sun visors, so these work real nice to shoot.
That's real good. Molly's picture in there.
John, do you want to meet? Governor Boyd, I have to go, but I want to welcome you on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce here at Tishomingo. Nice to meet you.
Glad to meet you.
We had more people here, and
How are you? Oh, Governor, how are you? Good to see you. I'm Glenn Smith. I'm the state executive for Arbuckle here in Wash County. I worked on the district council for a while. Well, I heard busy period for you. Oh, I'm not ready for this to be over. Good luck. Thank you.
think it's a turkey. It ought not to be built. It will make electricity very much more expensive, especially because they won't be able to sell that much of it, so they'll have to raise the rates higher to try to pay off the plant. Most importantly for Oklahomans, I think any kind of big power station, and especially a nuclear one, is not at all the cheapest way to meet people's end-use energy needs, that is, to do the jobs that we want to do with the energy. The cheapest way to do that is to stuff up the leaks in our energy system, like the square yard of holes in our houses. That is to use more efficiently the energy we've got. And the next cheapest method is the presently available renewable sources.
Well, it seemed to be a rather fast-spreading fire. We're going to take a good close look at what might have caused it. It's unusual for a fire to get this large of start when the building still has people around it and maybe is occupied.
Now, 1, 2, push, pivot, wrap, start, 1, 2, lift, 4, second, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, second, 4, turn, out, in, jump, step. Just step down, up, plant yourself, down, stop, up. Step, pull, and out, step.
We've never had over $300,000 to operate on since we began in October '76. And this year, the funding level was cut considerably split between the Tulsa and Oklahoma City offices, and that's all the money we have.
Los Angeles, California. This is a story about Dr. Daniel Smith, Chief Resident Physician in Obstetrics, Los Angeles County, USC Medical Center.
All right, it's just about here. Niña, niña. Well, he sneaked up on us. Way to be, Mama. Excellent.
Is the boy okay by you?
Okay.
Personally, it doesn't make me.
And I believe if them little old boogers goes up there and they vote to play, that we ought to have enough of backbone about us to go along with them.
That's right.
Now they're the ones going to go out there and get the hard knock and everything. Of course, now I know it's a parent how parents feel about it. But if them little old boys wants to go out there, they vote to play. Well, I think we ought to accept it and just go along with it.
business spending at the same time. We're not going to improve the dollar. We're not going to improve. But we can't ship oranges to them. They stand in line over there wanting oranges from Florida and Texas and California. But the Japanese government says, oh, well, we can't bring them in because we've got farmers in Japan that raise oranges. Well, we got automobile manufacturers over here that make automobiles too. And we got workers over here that make automobiles. And we got workers over here that make television sets and baseball gloves and a few other things. But we take them. And to the point where the Japanese now control 35% of the total market in California. Total automobile market in California is dominated by Japanese imports. Now, when we're willing to take in those kind of imports, when last year they ran against us a $10 billion surplus in our trade account, then it's time that we ask for equality in the marketplaces of the world. And until we do, we're in trouble. And the dollar's not going to improve. And until we cure these deficits, in our budget, deficits in our trade account, you're going to continue to see the dollar deteriorate.
Well, I think it's going to be fairly heavy for a non-presidential year, for a gubernatorial election year. I think we're going to have something over 700,000 vote next Tuesday. That would be only the fourth time in our history that that's happened during a gubernatorial year. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a turnout that was the second highest ever. The record is 822,000. I wouldn't be surprised if next Tuesday we don't run second to that record.
I'm going to look in your throat. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'll see you again.
Okay.
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 How to do? How's everything today?
Okay, look at here, Jacob.
Hello, Jacob.
Hey.
How are you doing, sugar?
There you go. Ah, come on. There you go, Jacob. There you go. Yeah.
Orange.
And that
Let's
seems
take a
to
look
take
in
care of
here.
it.
Come on, open up. Oh, you're not going to like this at all either. Oh, okay. Oh, goodness. Let's turn you over. Goodness. Didn't like that at all.
Oh, my, Jacob.
Let's give you to mama. Let's give you to mama. Okay. Goodness.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There we go.
How are things going at home? Is he fitting into everybody's schedule?
Daddy's so proud.
That's good. That's good. Number one in the family.
Yes, yes indeed.
Yeah.
The animals just got to be introduced. You know, we brought the dogs and cats in and they all sniffed, made sure they weren't jealous. So everybody knows Jacob.
Animals will usually get jealous of
They
a
were.
baby.
The dogs lost weight.
Is that right?
Both of them, German Shepherd and our little one. But they know him now and they know that we love them.
That's
So
good. Sure, sure. You just want to be careful, especially having animals around, that they be careful around him.
Yeah, we put him back outside because the cats could smell the milk. So they'd like to stay in, but we put him back out.
Sure.
But his sleeping is good. Hear
That's
that,
good.
you know?
That's good.
Get you another chair.
All right.
I think that's...
I thought you said she was making one. Weren't you making a motion over there?
I was not English for the last 6 years. She'd taught art, although it was represented to you that she had. That although the date of the contract was represented to be the proper person for the job, she in fact was, and he in fact did not. He in fact was, and he in fact.
Madam Chairman, I would move that the board finds that Mr. Bob Higgins and Ms. Pam Wheeler did not violate the 1977-78 contract in selecting and hiring a teacher for the in-school suspension program at Hoover Middle School. The board further finds that the 78-79 contract is not applicable in this matter.
They've breached their contract. They've shown the teachers in the Oklahoma City public school system that they have no right to apply for new jobs. It's that simple.